Hello, people. Figured I'd come on and read to you part of a conversation I had on YouTube so that you can understand where I'm thinking, okay? Somebody on YouTube had asked if a slave would stand up to their master. And my response was, I don't know how was it I, as a 5 foot tall 13-year-old, molested and threatened to be killed if I ever told, and kill my brothers if I ever left by my father, and abused by my stepmother, who treated me as a slave, was able to stand up against them. Sometimes when Sometimes to survive, all you have left to do is stand strong against those who abuse you, or just resign yourself to death. Ukraine and Zelensky decided to stand against their abuser, and like me, they hope there is someone there to catch them and help them walk away. But so far, most of what's being done is nothing but talk by the UN, and they need to get the hint before this is over. Russia will force them to act or lay down and die, because that's what bullies and abusers do. Because they know more often than not their victims will just lay down and die. Ukraine refuses to, and now the UN and NATO is being held up by Ukraine, because NATO and the UN choose to just lay down and die at Russia's feet. One of the users responded back to me by pasting the "I am a 5 foot tall 13-year-old molested, threatened to be killed." And then it says, "I am so sorry about what you've been going through. I'm a veganist, pacifist, and atheist, and I know that unlike other animals, humans tend to corrupt with power. If we all should have empathy and could imagine the pain and fear other sentient beings are forced to suffer, there would be far less violence in the world. But so far, most of what's being done is nothing but talk by the UN. As a veganist, I've been suffering the same frustration for years. Staggering numbers of animals are still slaughtered every day, and as for the UN, there are many defects in the organization, but unfortunately, there's no better alternative right now. All we can hope for is to make a drastic change in the protocol of the organization. The bottom line is the might is right mentality system, and victor's justice must be done away with. The climate crisis and nuke war are the clear and present danger for us all. And my response to that was, thank you for your empathy, but as a realist who believes there is a higher power, whether you call it God or the cosmic universe, creation itself shows it chose it. Or the wolf would never hunt, the eagle would never soar, and man would have never walked on 2 legs. We all have our role to play in the world to keep nature's balance. If humans and wolves never hunted, the prey animal would overrun the world. You might think this is a good thing until the insects and disease overran the prey animal, and before you know it, all is left out of balance, and the world becomes a barren rock floating among the stars. Putin thinks he is a wolf when in fact he is the insect and disease, because the wolf protects the balance knowing its life depends on it, as the insect and disease keep multiplying until it overruns its ability to survive. They may end up being the last one alive in the end, but what good does it do to be the last one standing if all you fought for was cannibalism and starvation? Putin is cannibalizing his own country right now to try and become the biggest insect on the block. He is rationing the supplies his nation needs to survive to wage this useless war he started. The UN and NATO are supposed to be the wolf to keep the balance, but they have laid down to the insect and disease and have become the sheep in fear of not the wolf, but its own weakness, while it is ravaged by insects and disease, it has no defense against. A sheep can run and hide from the wolf to live on, but how does it run and hide from what rips it apart from the inside? NATO and the UN needs to find the wolf within to once again become the guardians of balance it once used to be. Or it needs to resign itself to the slow death the insects and disease of Russia is inflicting on them from the inside. And I don't know if you understand that parity, but I hope you do. Basically, what I am saying is that everything in creation has balance. Now, if you let certain things run rampant, it will throw that balance out. It will destroy that balance without concern, without any kind of compensation, without any correction. And it will throw out the balance to the point of its own destruction. And that is what Russia is doing right now. It's throwing the world out of balance to the point of its own destruction. Okay? It will take the money its people needs away from its people, or ration its money so that the people cannot get the things they need to survive and to live, just to keep feeding its need for this war. And in the end, it might keep feeding its need for the war, but it's destroying itself from inside. And Russia won't stop with Ukraine, because Russia right now is playing the part of the parasite, the insect, the disease. Russia is playing that part. And just like humans play that part when it comes to the ecosystem of the world, Russia is going to kill itself off. Okay? Now, NATO was created to be the wolf in this scenario. NATO was there to take those weaker ones like Russia, who are out there trying to overfeed on the balance, to toss it out of whack. NATO was supposed to be there to get rid of that sickness, to get it out of there so that the balance can stay. Didn't matter whether the balance was democratic, autocratic, or whatever, so long as the balance stayed. But NATO has so weakened itself, it is no longer the wolf. It is no longer keeping the balance. It has allowed Russia to, after it had infiltrated the system, to feed on the system from the inside. And it's allowing Russia to continue to feed on that system. And pretty soon, Russia is going to destroy that system. And not only will Russia destroy NATO and the UN, but it will destroy itself and the balance of the world. And because of Russia's actions in the destruction of the balance of the world, we will have more wars. In fact, some of it's already starting to happen. This is all due to the fact of the UN and NATO's inaction to attack the infection within. They are allowing Russia to stay on that, what is it called? It's that committee that they did yesterday. They're allowing Russia to stay on that committee and to have power on that committee. And Russia right now is the parasite that committee needs to protect itself from. And they're not doing it. So now the UN needs to decide. Is it going to lay down at Russia's feet and die? And in the process kill NATO as well? Or is it going to stand up and inoculate itself from parasites like Russia and allow themselves and NATO to survive as a balancing influence instead of allowing themselves to die at the foot of the parasite? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying here, but you need to really stop and think. And the UN and NATO needs to really stop and think about this. Russia is not only attacking the UN. In a roundabout way, Russia is attacking the world and the balance of the world. And Russia is trying to create a destruction of that balance. Russia wants the world to sway only its way. The world has said, okay, we want to sway our own way individually with each section. Okay? But Russia has said, no, we can't have that. You must sway our way, and only our way, and no other way. And there are other countries out there behind them saying, yeah, Russia's right. Yeah, Russia's right. Yeah, Russia's right. And if Russia succeeds in what it's doing, those other countries that are back behind Russia are going to step in front beside Russia and are going to say, yeah, you need to sway our way. And the wolf is no longer going to be there to protect us. We are going to fall. And we are going to have a bigger war. Now, either NATO needs to become the wolf and pick out the sick and the infected, or they need to lay down and be the sheep and watch everything get thrown out of whack. The reason NATO was put in place as the wolf is because before the wolf was there, the world was playing tug-of-war. And the tug-of-war was being played out as between whether a nation will have an autocracy where the leader has full power and where they can feed its people whatever lie to be able to cannibalize its nation for their own benefit, or whether the world is going to be complete democrat and be able to serve the people and to give the people the ability to survive without having to bow to its leader. Or are we going to have something in between? Are we going to have it where we allow the nations who want to be democratic to be democratic? And the nations that tolerate being autocracy, let them be autocracies. But we don't allow the autocracy to push their belief on the democratic. And we don't allow the democratic to push their will on the autocracy. Neither side can push their will on the other side. Only their own people can do that. Right now in our country, in our politics, we are having a fight at this moment whether or not America is going to be an autocracy where laws like you can't teach certain histories because it's against their political rule, or you can't say certain things because it's against their political rule, as the Republican is doing, or whether we're going to have a country where it says, yes, let's teach everybody's history. Everybody has the right for their history to be heard, and for us to do better than what our past history says. The right is saying, let's demolish the history of anything we don't like. Anything that makes us feel slightly bad from what our ancestors did. Let's demolish them. And we don't care who it diminishes. That's an autocracy. That is a system where the information that gets to the bottom is what is fed to the bottom from the top. Whether that information is true, false, or missing some critical information in it. And that's where the Republicans want to be. The Democrats, however, are at the point of saying, yeah, and they do have some proclivity to autocracy, but far less than the Republicans. Because the Democrats say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to teach all the history. We're going to teach the history of the whites. We're going to teach the history of the Native Americans, the blacks, the Asians. We're going to teach all the history. Now, does that mean that the Democrats are above and beyond leaving out some of that history to benefit themselves? No. But they're at least going to try to teach all the history. And what they leave out will leave a curiosity in those who are learning the history so that they can learn more. The Republicans don't even want you to even have a chance to learn more. They just want you to learn what they want you to be taught. Period. They don't want you seeking anything else than that. If they had full power, they would cut off America's ability for freedom of speech. They would, without a problem, limit our ability for research. And they would not allow anything to be researched that does not fit their narrative. The Democrats on the other side say, well, if we leave some things out, portion of the population is just not going to seek for that something. A portion of it will. And we'll just have to deal with that. But we feel that in the end we'll win over because there'll be a larger portion that won't seek the facts. And we'll leave it all open for them to seek the facts. Because if we close it, they're going to want to seek the facts even more. See, they're playing a different game. But at least in the Democrats game, the people have a chance to win. In the Republicans game, the only thing the people have a chance to do is bow down to their will. I prefer to rather have a chance to win. Because today's Democrat Party leaves a door open for us to win. Today's Republican Party slams that door on the people. Now we need to start thinking. And the UN needs to start thinking. And the NATO needs to start thinking. Are we going to allow Russia to slam the door on our ability to grow and learn and become better? And to only kneel to their whim? Are the American people going to bow to today's Republican Party's need to suppress certain groups, certain communities, certain information, certain rights to become an autocracy? Or are we going to allow this world to step on the side of the Democrats, and even though they're not perfect, know that at least there is a door open that we can step through and be able to access the information, be able to have those rights, be able to see those communities, and be able to acknowledge those communities and those races and those rights and those abilities. The Democrat leaves it up to us to choose to do it. But, as I said, it is up to us to do it. The Republicans slam the door on that ability. And though the Democrat may at times fight what we find, sooner or later the Democrat has to open the door to what is found to become better. And they leave their door open for that possibility. Because they learned from when they were almost put out of existence. Because they used to be like the Republican Party. They learned they cannot be like that. Because that is the death of their party. Now our forefathers learned that having a party system was detrimental to the government. And that's why they never wanted a party system. But subsequent generations since then had insisted on a party system and did not learn. And they put back in place a system that will eat itself. That will not be sustainable. The only question is in the end, when all the dust settles, which side will win? The side of autocracy or the side of democracy? Because they're both fighting awfully hard in their own way. Democrats right now are leaving it up to the people to fight. And they're not fighting back, which is wrong. They need to push back on the Republican lies. And these policies the Republicans are putting in place that are stealing the people's freedoms and rights and dignity. And the Republicans are pushing hard to take full control. Sure, they want to lessen government. So they say. What they want to lessen government on is on the powerful. So that the lower, the workers, the consumers, the people don't have that power. They want to take that power away from them. They want to take all regulations away from the politicians. They want to take all regulations away from the employers. They want to take all regulations away from the companies and the organizations. They want the regulations to only fall on the consumer and the worker as to what they can do to protect themselves. They want the regulations to not pollute be taken away. That way they have the right to do whatever they want with their company and pollute as much as they want. But they want to put a regulation on the people that they can't sue that company for the polluting they're doing. For the death to the people that they're doing. And they disguise it as taking away the regulations. But what they're really doing is taking away the right of the worker and the people and the lower class to fight back. Because when those regulations are gone, there is no recourse that the worker and the lower class and the poor have. And if they get their wish of lining the Supreme Court with nothing but justices who will follow their game plan, they will further weaken the workers' rights. They will further weaken the citizens' rights. And hand all the rights to the politicians, the employer, these big corporations, even the small businessman will be left out in the dust. The only thing that will survive that system is the politician, those who are in power in government. Big corporations and the rich. Those are the only ones who will benefit. The rest of the nation will suffer. Now, the Democrats want to have the ability for the worker. And I'm sure if it didn't benefit them, that if it benefited them to go the other way, they would. But right now, we need to look at it and say, hey, right now, in their favor, the best thing they can do is to be able to allow the workers and the lower class to have a voice, to be able to fight back against these big corporations and the rich and the oppressive politicians. That's their survival strategy. They need us to survive. Okay, just like the deer needs the wolf to survive, the Democrats need the Republicans to survive. Just like the parasite needs the host to survive, the Republicans need the Democrats to survive. Because without that balance, it would all die off. And just like the Supreme Court needs the conservative to survive, the Democrats need the liberal side of the court to survive. And both sides need the moderate to survive. If we don't have a balance, we throw it all out of whack. And one side or the other ends up suffering. We need to have some regulations, yes, softened. Those that are hampering what needs to be done. We also need some regulations to stay in place. Those that keep the power in check. So it doesn't overrun the system. You don't keep the power to a motor in check, it will short circuit that motor. And our political system is the engine that keeps our nation going. And if we keep on giving too much power to any side, then the motor's going to stop working. So I want you all to think about that. And I want NATO to think about whether they want to be a wolf or a sheep. I want the UN to think about whether they want to be the wolf or the sheep. And you American people, you need to think about whether you want to be the beneficiary of the wolf or the victim of the parasite and the insect. What is it you want?